which is tenses. Tenses to some extent is complicated to many people because it has so many different usages. So that's exactly I wanted to make this video to clarify everything concerning grammar. So before we get started, I just want to clarify something which is to some extent important, that what is the discrepancy and the difference between a tense and an aspect. So mainly in English there are three tenses, and every tense has four aspects. For example, talking about the past is a tense, and this tense has four aspects, and which are the past simple, the past perfect continuous, and the past continuous. Four aspects for one tense. So let's get started concerning the grammar, talking about the tenses and what are the main usages of these aspects and these tenses and so on. So I'm gonna try my best in order to encapsulate the most common usages of this. So we're gonna be dealing first with the past and then moving on to the present and last but not least the future. So let's get started with the past. So the past simple. The first use of the past simple is this: a completed action in the past or happened in the past at a specified time. It means this specified means the time markers or the time indicators like yesterday, these days, next decade, and so on. It mainly indicates when this action was happening or when this action will be happening. So let's look at some examples and see it because it's very easy. So John sailed to America in 1498. So 98 or 1498, this is the specified time. This is the time markers. It gave more details. When John sailed, he sailed in 1498. It gave more details. Her father died. If we use only her father died, it's absolutely correct. But if you say last year, you gave more details to what you are saying. So this is just a supplementary information, but it's to some extent paramount because it gave more details. He lived in Cuba. So in 1976 also it gave more details. If you don't use it, it's okay. That's exactly what we will see in the second use of the past simple. We did the dishes yesterday. We did the dishes. Okay, if I told you that we did the dishes, you will absolutely understand that we did them in the past. But when you don't know, but if I say yesterday, if I supplement the word yesterday, you will absolutely understand because it gave more details and you will know that we did the dishes only yesterday. So the second action or the second use of the past simple, it's an action that was completed in the past at a specified time, which means there is no time markers. It's the same as the thing that we were talking about, that saying that John sailed to America in 1498, but if we don't use the 1498, it's correct, but we just don't give more details. So let's see some examples. I spoke to her about you. For example, if you asked me to talk to your girlfriend a week ago, and this week you asking me again whether or not I did that, so I would say yes, I spoke to her about you. So you will know that I did speak to her last week. You don't know which day, but yes, I did. But if I say I spoke to her about you on Wednesday, I gave you more details. So in here, I just spoke to her about you. You don't know when, but you absolutely understand that I did speak to her. So this action was in the past, but there is no time markers to give more details. Another example, I went to USA or I went to US. So it indicates that I went to US, which means I did in the past. So it's very clear. And she bought a car, but we don't know when. There is no more detail, but also we know that she did buy the car in the past. The third use of the past simple, which is the habitual past or the past habit. This one is absolutely vitally crucial. It's very important, which means that if you are habituated to doing something you were habituated to doing it, but not anymore. Something it was a routine, you used to do it regularly, but not doing it anymore. If you're still doing it, then it's going to be a habitual present, and that's what we will see when we reach the present. Okay, so now I'm talking about the habitual past or the past habit, something you are habituated to doing it, something you used to do it but not anymore. It was a habit, it was to some extent a routine, you used to do it regularly, but you're not doing it anymore. Examples. When I was a kid, I used to pray every night, and every night this means that the kid was doing this regularly every night. So when I was a kid, I used to pray every night for a new bicycle. Then I realized that the Lord doesn't work that way, so I stole one and I asked him to forgive me. So mainly indicates that the kid, or when I was a kid, I used to pray every night. So it was a routine, it was a habit. I was doing it regularly, but I'm not doing it anymore. So I was habituated to praying to God for getting a new bicycle, but now I'm not doing that. So it was a habit, but not anymore. I went to Spain every year. So saying every year also indicates that it was a regular action that I used to go to Spain every year, but I'm not going to Spain anymore. So I used to go, for example, in 2000 I went to US, or into Spain in 2001 I went to Spain, 2003 and so on. So I used to go each year to Spain, but not doing that anymore. It was a routine. I used to do it, but I'm not doing it anymore. She did the dishes every night, but now she's stubborn. She doesn't want to do that. She's to some extent rigid. So I was talking about she did the dishes every night. This also means that it was regularly doing the dishes, but now she's not doing that anymore. He took out the rubbish every morning. So took is the past form of the verb take. Took out the rubbish every morning. He used to take the rubbish out every morning, regularly, every morning, but he's not doing that anymore. Okay? So now talking about the fourth use of the past simple, which is the hypothetical past. The hypothetical past or the unreal past. Okay? It mainly indicates a situation in the present or in the future that we wish it to be different, which means it's mainly a future or a present situation that we want it to be to some extent different more than what it is already. Which means if, for example, if you're in the street and then you met a girl who is a foreign girl, for example, and you can't, for example, speak English, and she does, so she would ask you, would you please tell me what is the hospital to some extent in English, and you don't know. She can't speak English, and now you'd say, I wish I could speak English. You can't speak English, but you wish to be able to speak English. That's why you use the past simple, because it's in real past. Something can't be done. So saying that I wish I could speak English, although you can't. So let's see some examples. If you see also these expressions that mainly is going to be the past simple, but it might be a trap, it might be, but mainly if you see if only, wish, would rather, would sooner, it's high time and so on, it's mainly going to be the past simple. Okay, and other indicators for the hypothetical past we say we often use the past tense form to express a wish. This is a quite common after expressions like I wish, I'd rather, if only, as if, suppose, and it's high time or it's time. So yes, so let's see some examples to make it more straightforward. I wish I was taller, but it means that you're not taller. There is no need to say it. For example, if you really wanted to get something which is dangling, for example, if you wanted to change the bulb that dangling from the ceiling, and you're not taller enough to get it, so you would say, I wish I was taller, which indicates that you are not taller, but you want that situation to be different. You want to be taller, although you're not taller. It's time you started looking for a job. For example, if you just graduated from university and you just, for example, say that I have to take some time to rest. That's why, and your friend telling you that, man, this is time, or this is high time you started looking for a job, although you're not starting at that moment, but he means that you, or this is the time, this is the adequate, the suitable time for looking for a job, although you're not looking for the job at that moment, but it must be that time. Saying, for example, another example, if you say that, for example, it's time we left. It's time we left. For example, if you are waiting for the bus, or to some extent, and we say this is time we left, although you're not leaving that moment, but we say that this time we left, or it's time we left. It means that that's the most important and the most paramount and suitable moment to leave, but you're not leaving at that moment, but you should be leaving if you want to catch the bus. So, yeah. So, talking about the past continuous and the uses of the past continuous. A long action was interrupted by a short action, both in the past. Yes. So, and also, it might be a long action was interrupted also by a long action both in the past. Yeah, it could be. So, see some examples. I saw him when he was playing football. So I saw him, this is the short action which interrupted the long action that he was playing football. Another example, she was doing the dishes while I was studying, so the long action was interrupted also by a long action. When I called her, she was playing solitaire. And now talking about the second use of the past continuous to indicate that somebody was in the middle of doing something, indicating that somebody was in the midst of doing something in the past, which was a long action. See some examples. He was watching TV last night. He was watching TV last night. Last night he was watching TV. This was a long action, but was done by him. On the third use of the past continuous, mainly to indicate that an activity was in process in the past. It was raining, for example. It was stretching. So, it was an activity in the process in the past. On the stubborn actions, this is to some extent very important, and also we'll be talking about the same thing in the present also. Continuous. Like the past simple, but the past simple continuous, but there is a slight faint difference in discrepancy between the two, so it mainly indicates that there is a little bit exaggeration to some extent. So, for example, saying she was always calling me, which means it indicates that you are angry with this action. You are angry. But you exaggerate a little bit of saying that she was always calling me, or she was always bothering me, or Jane always bothering me all the time. If we substantiate the word was with ease, this is going to be the stubborn action in the present continuous, because it's still bothering you all the time. But if we say she was always calling me, it was bothering me or calling me in the past, but now it's not doing that anymore. But if you say she is always calling me, this indicates that she is doing the same thing all the time and still doing it now. Okay, now talking about the future plan in the past. A future plan in the past. This indicates that, for example, okay, let's give this example to some extent is very important. Talking about a future plan in the past, talking about a future plan in the past. For example, it was a plan that you planned to do something in the past, but it was not done. So, for example, so today, for example, we're in Tuesday, we're here, and on Monday there was a party, and on Sunday, somebody invited me. So the invitation was made on Sunday for the party to be on Monday, and we're here in Tuesday. We're in Tuesday. We're Tuesday. So somebody invited me on Sunday to join his party, saying, "Will you come to my party on Monday?" I said, "Yes, of course. I will be there." Okay. And I did not come to his party because of so many obstacles that were mainly intercepting me to join his party. So I did not join his party, and we met again on Tuesday, and he told me, "Yo man, why didn't you come to my party last night?" I would say, "I'm sorry, I was coming to your party." But if you say, "But I didn't," this is absolutely a recapitulation. You just reiterate what you said in another word. You just rephrase them. If you say, "I was coming to your party," it means that you did not come to his party because of something happened to you. So say, for example, "I was coming to the library yesterday, but there was something that just sidetracked me, so I'm sorry for being absent that day." So I was coming to the library or to the party, which means I was planning to join you, but because of something intercepted me, I didn't. So now talking about the past perfect, this one is very easy. Talking about the past perfect, mainly there are two actions in the past, both happen in the past but one before the other. Okay? The previous one must be in the past perfect form, and the following one must be in the past simple form. So we're here now, and this is the past simple, and this is the past perfect. So the past perfect, mainly an action happened before the past simple one, and now we're here, and then there is an action happened in the past, so it must be in the past simple, but the action was happened before it. It must be in the past perfect form. Okay, see an example. I had gone out when he arrived. I had gone out when he arrived, or when he arrived, I had gone out. And now we're going to be talking about the discrepancy between these two examples, although they're the same, but why we put comma over there, but not in the first example or the first sentence. I had gone out when he arrived. So talking about the first one and then moving on to the other, talking about the discrepancy later. I had gone out when he arrived. I had gone. So this is the past perfect form when he arrived. So both happened in the past, but I had gone out before he arrived. So talking about the second is the same as the previous one in the meaning, but concerning the spelling and so on, there is to some extent a slight or a faint discrepancy. Why we put the comma over there? So mainly because there is a dependent clause and independent clause. If we start with the independent clause and then the dependent clause, then must be no comma. But if we started with the dependent clause and then independent clause, then the comma must be followed after or put it after the dependent clause or preceded by the dependent clause. Okay, so talking about also now the past perfect continuous, it's the same as the past perfect except that the past perfect or the action that was happening in the past perfect must be a little bit longer. Okay, so it's the same as you can see over there. There's a timeline, and the action which is the past perfect form, the action which was preceded by the past simple form, it must be longer a little bit. So see some examples. I had been trying to fathom the tenses when he or she called me. There is a mistake over there anyway. I had been trying to fathom. Fathom means to understand or to grasp or to get the tenses when she or he called me. So I had been trying. By the way, I don't try to use the form of these usages because I think you know the forms of the tenses and their aspects. Okay, and had been trying to fathom the tenses before he called me or when he called me. So I was trying to understand the tenses this happened, but he called me later, and these two actions were both happening in the past. Trying to fathom the lessons or trying to understand the lessons was happening before the action of calling me both happened in the past. So we had been trying to open the door before my father found the keys. It's the same as that. So yes. So now moving on to the present